Fausto Pugliese, president of Cyber Trading University.
Most people always focus on the past, where as a professional day trader, we just focus on the future. You can do very well in trading, and you don't have to have a good amount of movement for the stock to go up. Welcome back, everyone. My name is Fausto Pugliese, and you are here at our podcast of cyber traders. A lot of gurus that come on, and today we have a special guest for the first time on our show. We have Mike Larson from The Money Show, and really excited about him. I do a lot of events at The Money Show. I think I was I was there when they first got started. I've been doing this for 35 years. And, love The Money Show. We're going to talk a little about it. But Mike Larson is not just, one of their top speakers and that run the Money Show as one of their editors, but he also is a trader himself. We'll talk a little about. He's an expert when it comes to interest rates and stuff like that and financial markets. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll see how things go. So, Mike, welcome to the show. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, glad I could get on here, Fausto. Good talking to you.
It's been great. It's been great. So anyway, what's been going on with this market too? What have you been seeing here? I mean, it's been kind of shitty in the summertime, but it's pretty normal, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, August and September historically tend to be the lousiest months for the market. I mean, again, obviously historical comparisons aren't always accurate, but statistics do show that's the case. And I think you get in that doldrums where, it's not as much trading activity. Half of Wall Street's out in the Hamptons or whatever, not really paying attention. And you see that overseas too. So you get some of these outsized move in the market. Yeah. And more recently, it's funny. I was some of this rotation that we've seen behind the scenes that, I was jokingly calling it the out of Palantir into Pampers rotation, because you got, people are selling all the big winners in tech like Palantir, and they're buying Procter and Gamble, the diapers companies and stuff like that. So
yeah.
You get action like that I think is sort of customary for this time of year. But, is it going to last for more than a few days, a couple of weeks? That's really the big question. I think that, it's healthy to see markets broaden out. It's healthy to have other sectors participate, and as long as money rotates versus just runs away, I think that it doesn't have to mean anything in the big picture for the market overall.
Yeah, you got to go down before you could go up. That's what I tell everyone. It is healthy for a down market. I mean, we had some huge rallies. I know I've done so many presentations on and videos on like Palantir. Has been a huge fan of that. Now it's been taking a big correction, a little bit, fill the gap fill and everything else. But that's, this is a typical summer. We're not going to see anything probably up until after Labor Day. I mean, that's usually, I was just saying to my traders this morning, a lot of my friends' parents already dropped their kids off at college right now. They're there. I actually have some of their kids eating over my house tonight because they had their younger ones because I dropped their older ones off. So it's been an interesting thing. But about you, Mike, I mean,
Sure.
What really intrigues me about you, you were a journalist, am I right? Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, my background, again, I went to college in Boston, studied English and journalism as a double major. And my junior year, I'd been writing for the school paper, just, general news and so on. My junior year, I actually stayed up there during the summer. And I don't mind dating myself a little bit. I graduated in 98. This is the summer rolling into 97. Bloomberg News, their Boston bureau, actually had a fax that they sent over for the jobs board of the College of Communications jobs board, and had a little bull and bear on it. Graphics, they were looking for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week as an intern, basically to, answer the phones a little bit, write little blurb stories and so on New England area companies. So I interviewed for it, and I got that position. It was getting towards the end of my time in college, so I wanted to get some more stuff on my resume. And I just really found it intriguing. I didn't really think that when I knew I wanted to go into journalism, even when I was coming out of high school, but I didn't know that financial journalism or that part of the journalism world was going to appeal to me. But when I took that position, started writing, started getting into more of, the market's activity as part of that, it really did interest me. It was definitely something that I wanted to stick with. So after graduating, I actually moved back to Florida, where I'm from originally, and went to work for Bankrate.com, used to be Bankrate Monitor. And of course, again, late 1990s, everybody slaps a .com on their name. And, I was writing about personal finance, mortgage rates, things like that at Bankrate. So, less markets, more finance. Again, just sort of broadening out that experience. And from there, I ended up going to work in 2001 for a company called Weiss Ratings, Weiss Research. And they're, as a publisher's exemption kind of firm, writing about the markets as opposed to actually managing money. Over my 20 years there, it was writing option services, writing newsletters with long-term investments, all kinds of strategies, futures options trading, commodities, a little bit of everything, right? And it just went from there. I actually, when I worked for Weiss, I started speaking at money show events. My first one was back in 2005 in Orlando. So that was my opportunity to kind of say, okay, here's our sort of house view, what we're talking about in the newsletter, why you want to know about these sectors, these stocks, and so on as well. So I had a history with the money show, not really, I think, as far back as yours, but a great experience. I really liked the company. I liked what they did. Of all the things that I did as a newsletter, writer and trader and analyst and so on, getting out and actually talking to the people who are reading your stuff, in person. Yeah, sure. It means you got to take some barbs when your picks don't work out, but that's part of the business, right? And it was a lot of fun interacting with, talking to people, talking markets, because you are amazed at the quality of your subscribers. I met so many interesting people from so many different backgrounds, people that, sold their company for $200 million and now had sort of like a play pile of money they wanted to invest. Everything else was with their brokers. It was really just interesting stories, interesting people. So when the opportunity came up to work for Money Show and MC and get to sort of plan some of the conferences and do the interviews and do all the stuff we do in between conferences, podcasts and newsletters and all that, it was a great fit.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm and to let everybody know, I am going to be at the Toronto Money Show. It's coming up in about 3 weeks, and then I'll be at the Orlando, which is the really big one that's coming up in October. And what's really nice about it is that you're right. When you meet some of the most interesting people, when you do these webinars, you do these events, online, you really don't have that interaction. You don't know who you're really talking to, and when they don't talk back to you, you don't really know. But yeah, if anyone is there, definitely we post up the link right there so you guys can register for it on the right. Definitely register for it. Log in. They do a lot of podcasts. They do a lot, with that Mike Larson does, but they also do a lot of, stream a lot of them, so you could see some of those webcasts that they do and stuff like that. But I love doing them. I do find out that they are like, there's so many of them that, is some better than others? I mean, like, is it more geared to the others? Because some people, like, I know some people get a little upset. They're like, oh, it wasn't really what I was looking for. Or, how do you know which one to go to and which one not to go to?
Sure. Well, Money Show's evolved. I mean, I've officially been on board for 3 years, give or take. And like I said, obviously been presenting at them going back all the way to 2005. And the model has sort of changed over time, especially after COVID. Most of the events, or almost all the events now, they're mostly paid. There are sort of free events that you can get into the exhibit hall and sort of kick the tires if you've never been to a money show, so you can test that waters. But a lot of the things that we do now are paid, and we have two types of shows that are going to happen throughout the year. One is the big Money Show Traders Expo, which is kind of like the historical Money Show experience. That's what you'll be participating in Orlando, where you've got a big exhibit hall, all the booths going on. You've got stages where people are presenting, 3 of those. You've got again, everything from trading services to newsletter publishers to companies that are raising money from private and public investors. All kinds of things going on in the exhibit hall. Then you've got keynotes, you've got the panel discussions on stage, you've got a podcast area, you've got people like Charles Payne that are broadcasting his show live from the floor. I mean, a little bit of everything, your sort of traditional money show experience. And then we also have the symposium style events, which are aimed at a higher net worth investor, trader audience. They're kind of cozier. There's like a sponsor area versus exhibit hall. We do those in some cities where there's a little bit of a smaller type environment that we want to test out. Like this year, for example, we're back in Dallas for the first time since 2019. We've done the Bay Area.
Yeah, I've done that one too.
Yeah. So, again, it kind of depends on what you're looking for. At those events, it's more private type, accredited type investments as opposed to more public companies participating. So again, one sort of a general trader investor audience, one's more of a high-end, ultra high net worth investor audience. But it really just depends what you're looking for. If what kind of experience you want, what kind of environment you want, and what sort of feel to the conference that makes sense.
Now, regarding about having someone to decide what topic they want to invest in, obviously that's what people want to hear. I always tell everyone, if there is somebody that you are like some of my students come up to me, and there's just so many exhibitors there. I mean, there's so many people you want to listen to, and you just don't walk by the door and see how many people are in there. You want to go to a person that obviously is what you really want to hear, because the time is very limited and you might miss. So definitely go out there. If there's somebody, if I'm there, you know what I mean, at one of these events, and you want to know who should you listen to and make the best of it, definitely come up to, if it's not me or even Mike or yourself or someone that you trust or someone that you like their style, definitely ask them, hey, who on this list you think I should go see and who I shouldn't see? Not that they're bad. You don't want to sit in a room, listen to somebody talk about something that really, and you don't want to be the embarrassed one walking out of a room in the middle of a guy's conversation, because I feel bad. Some people have done that to me. They're like, I thought there was something else. I'm sorry, And
it's the thing about Money Show too. I mean, if people have been there, they're watching this, they know. But you have some specialized conferences they're a crypto conference, or they're a gold conference, or they're whatever. There's conferences and there's other companies that do different types of things. But Money Show, we really try and I kind of describe it as an investment smorgasbord or buffet, right? You're gonna have people that are going to be speaking about precious metals. You're gonna have people that are going to be talking about crypto. You're gonna have talk to people that are day trading or focus on very short-term trades. You're going to have people that write retirement investing newsletters where the holding periods are going to be years for stocks and ETFs. So, there really is a little something for everybody. So you're right. Before the show, we've got programs, we've got the websites. More recently, in the last year, we've launched an app that's there for people to use on site, so they can do it simple. Everybody does things on their phones these days, right? So now you can just kind of scroll, figure out what you want to go to, where it is, what topics you're interested in, and just kind of make the show your own is really what you want to do.
Mike, what has been really popular now? I mean, listen, I've been at the money shows. These people want to always listen to, and they're always browsing, even on the internet. Like, they see all these people on YouTube channels. They see a lot of these. I don't even call them gurus anymore. I call them influencers. You know what I mean? Some of them really not gurus, just influencers. So how do you segregate, or what do you see as being popular as people are starting to fill up and want to hear more than others as being a journalist? I mean, obviously the big thing was obviously crypto. You had penny stocks, you had day trading, you had a lot of things. But what do you find that people are now starting? I mean, you got Charles Payne that comes here from Fox Business, who's I'm looking forward to hear from him too. But what do you find that people are starting to adapt to more?
Yeah, I mean, I think crypto's been a big topic simply because it's been mainstreamed, right? I mean, the introduction of these ETFs with billions and billions of dollars of AUM, people can access, even non-crypto people can access the asset class and start getting involved. I mean, that's been big, and we've tried to adapt to that by getting people that are trustworthy, that aren't, just sort of fly-by-night type people, or that are associated with reasonable projects, that have a lot of industry knowledge, and can help onboard some of the people. Because, depending on your generation as an investor, I mean, you may have dabbled a little bit, you may have no exposure, you may have a ton of exposure if you're a younger investor who's, on a public app or on eToro or whatever and trading this stuff. So we try and cater to people that are all experience levels. So that's been popular. I will say, I'm actually, given the performance of things like gold, silver, and other metals, I'm actually surprised there's not a little bit more enthusiasm for that, which I guess if you're a bull, that's sort of what you want to see, because not everybody's dogpiling into it. I think that may be part generational. It may be part that, some people think crypto is the new precious metal, so they don't want to invest in both. It's an either or type choice. But I think that's, getting a little more popular. But I think, it'd be interesting to see if that gets more momentum. And regarding the influencers, it's interesting you bring that up, because we do work with some companies that and some speakers that do, kind of try and monitor social media and use that for good educational purposes. I mean, I always say social media, finfluencers, whatever terms you want to use it, they're just like in the traditional finance world. There's shysters and there's people who know what they're doing, right? So, we try and identify and curate the people that may live in that world and talk and educate in that world, that are doing things on TikTok and YouTube and social media apps, things like Blossom and so on. And StockTwits, for example, we work closely with them. They know what they're doing. These people know what they're doing, and they're using the sort of knowledge that you can tap into in that sort of, that sort of community trading type stuff that goes on to really help people get, better their game, or really get involved if they're a beginner.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, and said that, because I couldn't say any better. I always tell everybody that the Money Show obviously has a very good reputation, over the years. And I've seen people come and go, and I've seen people like, right away, like, don't bring this person back, whatever it is. You don't really know it, but you do your homework now. And that's why you're doing a lot of the paid events a little bit more, because now you get a little bit more quality, a little bit more attention, and you get more of a serious person who really wants to learn or not. But yes, I mean, anyone that I've seen at the Money Show, obviously they have to have high standards or some type of a reputation than having some influencer that's just coming out there and and so on. Just like to hear them talk. I like to say, but again, they're there to learn. And you know what? Listen, it's not just going to the show. It's expensive. People got to fly there. You got to get the hotel. You got to eat. You loss of time. You want to make the best of it. So yeah, I mean, going out there is definitely worth it. Because I've noticed over the years, Mike, and no disrespect to money shows, but a lot of shows have died down a little bit. I mean, they were really big one time. So I saw that you guys had to do some type of restructuring a little bit, I've noticed, with the paid events. Is that what's really been working?
Yeah, I think, when you look at sort of pre-COVID and post-COVID, the model, the way people learn and the way that the business works, by going to that freemium, I hate to use jargon, but that model where there is some free content available in the exhibit hall, but you're paying for everything else, for the general events that we do in Orlando and Vegas and Toronto, versus the symposium events where nothing is free, it's all paid. It's going to be smaller crowds, but like you said, it's going to be people that are serious. I think the sponsors like the fact that you have people that, whether it's $149 or $299 or whatever it is, they're committed to be there. They're paying to be there. They're not just walking by your desk and picking up a tchotchke, and getting a bag of them and going home and not really listening to what you say. They're serious investors. They're serious traders. They're people who, really are committed to learning, and are open-minded to the kinds of, opportunities that the sponsors offer. So, you won't have 10,000 people through the door over 3 days. You might have 1,000 or 1,500, depending on the event, or in the symposiums, 300 to 500, depending on the city. But you're going to have people that sponsors want to connect with. Average portfolio sizes. I mean, we do data matching and some other things. I mean, these people are highly qualified, depending on the event. Portfolios on average $4 or $5 up to $10 million. So, it's not just somebody who's got $5,000 in a Robinhood account. There's people that are, really serious, looking for education, looking for, opportunities that they might not find elsewhere. And I think that just, it's a different model. But I think it's something that really works in this day and age.
No, it's a great model. I do the same thing too. I mean, we host these events all the time. I do webinars and live events every week. And you got the free people, and then you have people that just, even if you pay, like, even our trial, we charge like whatever, just $9. I mean, what do you have to lose, and get a whole week of it other than an hour? And it kind of weeds out the riffraff. So I always tell everyone here, listen, the only thing that's free is a cheese and a mousetrap. Okay. So, and obviously it didn't work too well for the mouse. So yeah, you definitely, you'd rather pay a little bit and know you're going to get the value, and you got to take it more seriously too. You know what I mean? Like, listen, you went out there, you paid a little bit, and so on. And not only that, but like I also, Mike, I always bring up this way. Would you rather be and go to a free concert, or rather go to a paid concert? People like, well, obviously a free concert. Oh, look, okay, great. But who's going to be at the free concert? Okay. You're going to have every walk of life. You're going to have people picnicking. You're going to have maybe bums out there hanging out, whatever. And you're going to be with 1 million people. I'd rather pay $50 than pay no dollars. I just want a good deal. That's all it is.
Or you get the cover band or the real thing, right? So.
Yeah, that's where it comes down. So, Mike, where do you see yourself, or where do we see the Money Show being in the next 5 years? I mean, they're always innovating, and helping the general public in the financial industry. Is there anything that we're looking at that's going to be coming up, or they're working on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a couple of things. First off, is one of my primary roles, and one of the big things I try and do is all this the stuff we do in between shows to keep people, keep people in touch with the experts that are on our rosters, and keep people up to date on the markets. I mean, even if we host 6 shows in the U.S. and annually now, and then 1 in Toronto. But even in between that, the markets are moving, things are changing. Our experts' opinions, they may say something at the Toronto show, and then 2 months later, given market conditions, they may have a whole different worldview. So things like the newsletters that we do, the Top Pros, Top Picks, and Trading Insights newsletters. I've totally revamped the look of them, the content, more original content, plus digested content from what our people do in newsletters and in their own, their own Substacks and things like that, to keep people up to date on what's going on between shows. the podcast, the Money Show podcast that we do, Money Masters podcast. Every week, we get 1 or 2, sometimes 3 of our upcoming speakers on, and I'll just sort of wrap with them. What's going on in the markets? What do you see in your sector? What are you going to talk about when you join us in, fill in the blank, Orlando, Dallas, or whatever? And again, the idea is we want you to come to the conferences. We want you to connect. We want you to meet these people live, get their signed books, find out what they have to say there, but also keep you up to date on what they're saying in between. So the newsletters, the content partnerships we have with other companies, the podcast, and so on, all that's going on. So that's newer. It's it's changed from what kind of how things were a couple years ago when I signed on. So I think I'm pretty proud of what we're doing there, and that's one of the initiatives. We'll just continue to grow that. As far as the events, we're looking to get back into cities we used to be in and try out new cities moving forward. We'll probably be relocating our Miami event to someplace else in South Florida to make it a little more easy to access. We're going to be looking to get back in the Bay Area again. Like historically, that was a city Money Show was in for years. Mm-hmm. So we'll be doing that. So, new cities, new experiences. The symposium line, for example, really the first symposium style event was only in New York in 2023. So that's a new program, a new style of conference that we've gotten a lot of positive feedback because it's a different experience. It caters to a different attendee, different kinds of sponsors. So we'll look to maybe continue doing that and roll those out in new cities and go from there. I mean, those are a couple of the things that, again, whether I'm directly a part of or just kind of contribute to, that we're doing as a company. I think those are the kinds of things people can look for more of, and just make sure that we're always getting the experience on site to be, in line with the way people learn. We talk about some of the influencers doing a podcast corner, doing a live TV broadcast from the stage. Live trading, obviously, that's one of the things we're happy that you're participating in, because, what's better than having somebody that is explaining as the markets are on the, the screen behind them, this is what I'm trading, this is why I'm buying, this is why I'm selling. That kind of stuff isn't just exciting and entertaining. That's the kind of like high sort of touch education that I think people really benefit from. So we're trying to do more of that as well.
Now, Mike, you're going to be at all these events, am I right? Most of them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my roles as editor-in-chief here is to basically MC the live events. So I usually kick everything off with sort of a 10 to 15 minute overview. This is, here's 10 charts that I see that I think are kind of interesting and tell a story about where the markets are. And then we roll into the expert speakers from there. I'll moderate panels. We'll do podcasts. We'll capture, some of the cell phone type video stuff from, 60 seconds with this expert. Tell me the 3, main points you made here. Stuff like that, again, if people aren't there, hopefully they see that, they realize what they're missing, and they come the next time. Or even if they were there, okay, this kind of gives me a recap of what happened, what they found most important, and I think that's important for my portfolio as well.
And could anyone, if you're there, could someone come up to you and ask you, like, who do you recommend or whatever? Look, is it fair?
Sure, I will. Yeah, in my role, I mean, I always say we're kind of a marketplace, right? It's like being a financial ringleader, like you have the circus going on. You got to kind of try and make sure everything's directed in the right way. I'm not going to tell you, hey, listen to person X more than person Y. And I'm not going to do that because I think the whole point, we curate the speaker list. We program the events ahead of time. We wouldn't have somebody there if we didn't, believe that she had something interesting to say and we're a good educator. So, I always say you're coming to a marketplace of ideas, do your due diligence, hear, what everybody has to say. And then, look, you've got to ultimately decide what's best for your portfolio. You could come to a Money Show event, one of the big shows, and get 200 different, stocks, ETFs, funds, style suggestions, trading strategies, all these different things. But then you've got to distill that down and say, hey, I'm this old, I have this much money to invest, I have this risk tolerance. Here's why these 3 things fit me best, because it's going to be different for every attendee.
Now, listen, you're not the only, the only show in town, right? I mean, there's a lot of expos out there, and
sure.
What makes the Money Show different than other shows that people are out there? I mean, everyone's out there trying to do a show a little bit. Even these even brokerage firms try to do it themselves and stuff like that. What makes you guys different that everyone should go to your show? Because I love your shows. I do all of them, and I still do them. I always been there for the good times, the bad times. I've been there ever. But I don't want to hear from me. I want to hear from you. What makes it different than all the rest?
I think part of it is track record and experience, right? I mean, Money Show, we've been at this since the early 1980s, really almost our 45th year here of doing this. Kim Githler, the founder and CEO, I mean, she's been in this business forever, essentially the financial education business. So it's it's not just the experience that you get from, how do you program a good show? It's the speaker relationships that have been built over the years. It's the people, the willingness of our speakers to come and speak, at multiple shows, because they know that by doing so, they're going to have a great experience getting to meet people who listen and watch them. They'll be able to build business relationships and so on. And for the attendee, you're going to have access to, again, the types of experts that you otherwise would pay thousands and thousands of dollars to try and, access yourself, or that you might watch for 60 seconds or 2 minutes on a Fox Business or CNBC segment, but never hear anything more from, right? So it's the experience, it's the track record, it's the the relationships that we have that allow us to create events that I think aren't just fun and exciting, but also give attendees valuable information that and keep them coming back. I mean, we have a Money Show Pro program where it's basically the VIPs. People pay $12.99 to access pretty much everything we do for a year. We have people that renew over and over again that I'll see at shows that I've seen ever since I came on board, and that I kind of remember back when I was a speaker in 2010. They stick around, they come back because of the experience, the relationships, and the education they're going to get. So I think that's part of it. And I think the other thing I would say is just always evolving. I mean, we're always trying new things, whether it's new locations, new cities, new venues. We're looking to make Money Show, take the 45-year history and keep it going by making it relevant to the way people learn and educate today. Why do we do more podcasts on site? Why do we do more panels? Why do we have some younger educators coming in and people who work for companies like Blossom and StockTwits and so on, and some of the Wolf Financial and all these others? Why? Because that's the way people are, the next generation of investors are learning today. I mean, let's be honest. They're watching X Spaces. They're watching things like what we're doing here. They're watching TikToks and they're watching, Instagram Reels and things like that, because they want to learn in a different format. So the other thing I would say is just adaptability. If you came to a Money Show 5 years ago or 10 years ago, you're like, it was okay, but I don't think I'd go back. I would encourage you absolutely come and see what today's Money Show is about, because it's not just that experience and those relationships and the speakers. It's that the experience adapts and changes with time.
And by the way, if anyone listening, you got the link right there. Just register for it, and you'll be able to get registered for Orlando. Or if you have your cell phone, you could scan that little QR code on the top right-hand corner to get you registered. Now, regarding about the what you do at the Money Show, you do a lot of interviews, right? And which not only being a presenter, but you also being a good educator, and you're always learning. There's a lot of people here that are in the same boat. They're watching, they're listening to other people. What have you learned after interviewing so many speakers that you find that has helped you change your style or your type of trading? I don't want to put you on the spot, but there are a lot of people here listening to us, and they think that this is what the problem is. Everyone comes in there and they get, they're like, you got to, trade options, and all of a sudden they do it, doesn't work, and they say, I quit and fail. This sucks. I'm done. I mean, all these speakers, have you ever figured out wow, I shouldn't do this and I should do that instead? Or it's because it's your kind of style. What could you advise the listeners that are listening right now of how to dissect and analyze what is best for them on their style that you've learned interviewing some of the biggest speakers in the industry?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, historically, I've been more of a fundamentally oriented, longer term investor. I'm not really in that sort of day trading world personally, and I'm not, an incredibly active trader. I do trade. I do dabble in options. Stocks, ETFs, and even a little bit of sort of metals type action as well. But I'm not typically an extremely active participant in the markets every day or every hour or whatever. But I will say, by being involved with the Money Show, by sitting in on so many different presentations, moderating panels with people that are everything from very short-term traders to top-notch economists to Wall Street strategists. I mean, I've had the privilege really to listen to so many different perspectives, and I think what it's taught me is really that you have to find the approach that works for you. I can't get up there and talk 45 minutes about how I day trade, because that's not really my thing. But there's going to be people at the Money Show that's what they do, and they know that world, and they can give you practical, actionable, really helpful tips and education in that space. Or you could have people that, that talk on the economy for 45 minutes. And if you're a short-term trader, you might not really care so much, but it allows you to sort of frame things in the background and at least have a little bit of a worldview that you take when you sit down at your computer, or, grab your phone, and that information is sort of synthesized and helps you. So I think for me personally, it's just exposed me to a lot of different ways of trading. It's exposed me to a lot of different tactics, things that I've, when I do trade options, or when I do, get a little more active, I'll use leverage ETFs or things like that. I keep in mind some of the risk management type scenarios, some of the time management when it comes to options and so on. Those types of things that I've picked up along the way. And that's kind of what I've incorporated when I do some of my more active or shorter term stuff.
Ever interview someone like who's like the most famous person you interviewed that like really that was very intriguing, or somebody that you learned a lot from? Anybody that brings to mind that you've interviewed, being a journalist or something like that? Because I had my own experience, and I think everyone's going to know who this person is before I tell you. And I had a very weird experience interviewing him. But anyone you ever had an experience like that before?
It's funny. I haven't had the chance, for example, to sit down and spend 15 minutes with a guy like Warren Buffett. That would be like my dream if it would happen, but it hasn't. So I wish I had a great Warren Buffett story or something.
I don't even know you've been in the same league with the guy. I'm not even talking to him. I don't even understand what he's even saying. But I mean, he's just like, whatever he does, you just do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. But I think I tend to lean a little towards macro. I tend to lean a little towards, the big picture thinking and the interesting stuff that I hear there. So when I hear from people like a Jim Bianco, who's very much in the Fed and sort of, the macro world, and as an independent guy, had his own research firm since 1990, he's been somebody that I've really enjoyed speaking with, having on the podcast and so on. I will say Paul Hickey from Bespoke was a first-time speaker for us in Vegas this year, but I've been following his work. I mean, going all the way back, I think he started writing for the street.com or something 20 years ago, or he had,
right.
And so getting a chance to I've always appreciated his methodology. He comes at it from macro to technicals to historicals. He does a great sort of like 360-degree way of looking at the markets. So getting to speak to him, moderate a panel he was on, and then do like a short segment in Vegas, that was a pretty interesting experience too. So
did you ever interview Charles Payne?
I did a brief segment with him. It was sort of one of these abbreviated podcast type interviews, maybe 10 minutes with him at the Vegas 2024 summer event. And that was great too. I mean, when I watch him do what he does live, the way he kind of connects with people and the way he's just, he's on his toes. He gets all kinds of guests on there. Really great guy to talk to in person. And, his interaction with the attendees, he's got a line of, I don't know, dozens and dozens of people there for a book signing, never seems to get tired, always has the energy, is always, willing to answer questions and you get up close and personal with people. Now, it's interesting to see people like that you might watch on television, be like, is that how they really are in real life? Or is it going to be a completely different experience when I want to go meet this man or woman? He's one of those guys that he's got all the time in the world for the people that are there, and he really makes it about their experience.
My just to give you a little experience. I used to have a radio show a while back, and I used to do a lot of work with back in the day with Equities Magazine. Okay. And I had the privilege to interview Ken Fisher, and that was a very weird conversation. He's like super smart. I mean, and he's like analyzing you before even asking the questions. But that was probably the most famous person I ever interviewed. Interviewing a billionaire, but like one of the top. Ken Fisher is obviously Ken Fisher. But then Kathy, the big hedge fund girl, Kathy Woods. Also, I had an opportunity to meet with her last year. I didn't get a chance to interview her, but what a smart woman. I mean, everything she comes, just like everyone understands what she's saying. Like if you hear both of them on a stage, you'd be like, one guy's like in, Pluto, and the other person's like the sun, you know what I mean? Total opposite. And listen, you learn something from both of them, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Like you adapt And when you adapt to someone, you understand where they are, then you kind of understand why they're trading one versus the other.
Yeah.
But that was
absolutely.
a very interesting experience.
I think the one quick anecdote that I will say, and it wasn't an interview, but when I started at Bloomberg back in college, I mean, I don't know if you ever used a Bloomberg terminal. They got their private message system, and it's got so this was back in '97, I guess.
I had a Bloomberg machine when I was day trading. Expensive back in the day. I had it 25 years ago. It was $2,000 a month back then.
Yeah, yeah. So, so you got the internal private messaging system, and obviously I'm Mike Larson, and I wrote about some company, I think it was EFII was the ticker. They did some sort of electronics for imaging, some kind of Xerox component type maker or something. So anyway, back then I was writing, 3-5 paragraph stories. They put out a press release, you turn it into an article, and that's about it. And I get this message that pops up in the internal message it says it's from Mike Larson or Michael Larson. I'm like, okay, well, what's this about? I was kind of confused because I hadn't been there very long. So I asked my boss, I'm like, who's Michael Larson? What's going on? He's like, oh, well, no, that just means somebody else on the Bloomberg system has the same name as you. Okay. Looks him up. Turns out that was the Michael Larson who was with Cascade Investment, Bill Gates' personal family office money manager.
Oh my God.
So for some reason, he, manages billions of Bill Gates' money, and he happened
he had the same name as you.
And yeah, same name. And he was like, what, can you tell me more about this company? I'm like, shoot, I just wrote a, 400-word article off a press release. I can't tell you much, but that was one of my funnier brushes with fame, I guess you'd call it.
Well, I don't have that problem. I don't think there's too many Faustos out there. So, I mean, actually, funny thing is some people do confuse me. There is another Fausto Pugliese out there in this world, and he's a designer. Okay. And he's like another Giorgio Armani, and everyone's like, so sometimes people come to my wife, they're like, is your husband Fausto Pugliese? Is he the Fausto Pugliese? Like, yeah. He's like, do you get you must have the craziest wardrobe? And I'm like, oh no, that's the designer. Yeah. And he spells it differently. His ends with an I, mine ends with an E. And I was like, damn, if I just had that I probably could have sold my name for because I own Fausto Pugliese, I probably would have got millions of dollars selling it to him.
Yeah, right.
But that's same thing like your name of fame. So we both had something in common. That was pretty funny. But Mike, any last minute words that you probably want to leave people what to experience going to the Money Show, or what they should expect with the market coming up? Being a journalist, I mean, you write a lot of articles and stuff like that. Anything they should be prepared to look out for, or what they should be seeing within finishing out 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing I would say is, I think, me personally and some of the speakers that I and experts that I've had on the podcast, I tend to agree with and think their information is valuable. It's proven correct over time. I think there's a lot of conversations about rotation and finding new winners. I think that my advice would be open-minded. If you have an ultra tech-heavy portfolio, look into some other parts of the market, look into some of these different sectors that, might be, if not leaders, at least, sort of overtaking things as we roll into the back half of this year and into 2026. It's a changing interest rate environment. It's a changing economic environment. Foreign stocks are doing well, and I don't tend to think that that's going to be something that's going to change given what's happening in the dollar. So it's different themes. It was a big tech all the time type market. I don't think we have that anymore. A lot of the people that I believe sort of have their finger on the pulse of the market think that things are going to be changing and evolving for the rest of this year and next. So when you come to a Money Show, when you watch the podcast, or when you read some of what they say, just keep an open mind, because I think, it doesn't mean tech has to get thrown out. I don't think we're in some tech wreck crash or any kind of thing like that.
Yeah. Any analysts that you talk to, are they bullish? Are they bearish? You talk to so many of them. Everyone's listen. People call you out all the time, even like me. Like, what do you think is going on? And I just tell them, listen, I'm just the ants. I'm just trying to get the crumbs. I live here, the financial capital of the world. I know a lot of big kahunas out there, hedge fund guys, and they tell me stuff. I share all the time, but any of them out there that told you what you think, what they expected, going into, it's not really an election year, but yeah, you got the war and everything else. Anything that they should be concerned about, or what they're looking out for, anything like that?
I think the biggest concern that people have is if the Fed sort of flubs this, waits too long, doesn't, disappoints Wall Street. I think, especially in the shorter term, as we roll into, September, October, you got a couple meetings coming up. If they don't do anything, I think Wall Street's kind of pushing for a cut. And if they don't get it, there might be a little bit of a temper tantrum thrown over that. I think the other big message from a few people like Larry McDonald that I think have been accurate is the rotation into hard assets. And, and investing for an environment that's different than sort of the great moderation that we had after the great financial crisis for whatever 10, 12 years, that's probably a lasting type environment. So things like hard assets, things like commodities, equities tied to those parts of the market, those are probably going to do pretty well. And so, I would say it's a general thing that if you're not invested in that part of the market, start looking into that, shade more of your portfolio in that direction, because I think there's a lot of reasons to think that this isn't just a 1 or 2 year move. This is a multi-year kind of thing you want to participate in.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, Mike, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to seeing you in Toronto and at the Money Show. So everyone, we got the link right there. Make sure you register for it. And if you can't, obviously, if you can't make it up there, you can always watch the webcast and also have access to their list of hundreds of great speakers on their website. So, Mike, thanks for being here. Look forward to seeing you in another couple of weeks. And everyone, we'll see you back here next week for another podcast for Cyber Traders. Thanks for listening. We'll be back.